All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the world of the ethical hacker. Now, I want you to forget everything you think you know, the stereotypes of shadowy figures in dark rooms. This is actually a story about digital defenders, the cybersecurity pros who have to learn to think like an attacker in order to protect all of us. So let's open up their playbook and see how it's done. It's a really good question, right? It gets right to the heart of it. Because when we hear the word hacker, we immediately think of crime, disruption, all the bad stuff. But what if those exact same skills could be used to build stronger defenses, to find the cracks in our digital walls before the real attackers do? Well, that's the world we're going to explore. So in this story, we've got two main characters, and they have the exact same skill set. The black hat? Think of them as a burglar who learns how to pick locks so they can break in and steal your stuff. But our protagonist, the white hat, is more like a security consultant. They learn how to pick the very same locks, but they do it with the owner's permission so they can find the weaknesses and recommend stronger deadbolts. To really get inside the head of a defender, we first need to understand the world they're living in. Because, it's not as simple as good guys and bad guys. There's a whole spectrum of motivations out there. First things first, let's get our core definition straight. So, what is a hacker, really? At its heart, the term itself is totally neutral. It's just someone with the technical know-how to solve a digital problem or get into a system. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, well, that depends entirely on their intent. Are they breaking in to steal, or are they testing the locks because you asked them to? And that intent creates this whole range of characters. We've met the clear-cut white and black hats, but then you get this murky middle ground. Gray hats are kind of like digital vigilantes. They might expose a flaw, but they do it without anyone's permission. And then you have hacktivists who are basically digital protesters, using their skills to push a political agenda. It's a really complex landscape.
Every ethical hack starts not with a bang, but with a whisper. The first phase is all about gathering information. Seriously, think of it like a detective building a case. Before you can even think about finding weaknesses, you have to understand your target from the outside in.
This whole process has a name. It's called footprinting. It's basically the art of collecting publicly available data to draw a map of a target's digital presence. An ethical hacker wants to know everything they possibly can: what tech they use, who works there, what their network looks like, all in the hopes of spotting a potential weak spot. Now, what's really interesting about this is that this first step is completely passive. It relies on something called open source intelligence, or OSINT. An ethical hacker will use tools to dig through public records, social media, company websites. They're not even touching the target's systems yet. They're just looking at all the digital breadcrumbs we all leave behind online. Okay, so once enough intel has been gathered, it's time to switch gears. We move from just watching to actively probing. Now the hacker starts to gently knock on the target's digital doors to see which ones might be unlocked. This is done with a technique called port scanning. See, every single device on a network uses these numbered ports to run different services, like port 80 is usually for web traffic. A port scan is literally like walking down a long hallway and checking every single door to see which ones are open, which are closed, and which ones are protected by a firewall. And this illustrates that perfectly. Using a common tool like Nmap, an ethical hacker sends little requests to a bunch of ports on a target server. The responses they get back tell them exactly which services are up and running. An open web server port, an open remote access port, each one of those is a potential entry point that needs to be secured. All those open doors we've just found, well, they're basically an open invitation. And you can bet a black hat hacker has a whole toolkit ready to walk right through them. That toolkit is known as malware. Malicious software designed for one purpose, and one purpose only: to cause harm. And the variety is just staggering. Some malware, like worms, is all about brute force, just spreading across networks all on its own. But others are way more deceptive. A Trojan horse, for instance, will disguise itself as a legitimate program to trick you into opening the gates for the attacker. The ethical hacker's job is to find the weak points in the castle walls before any of this stuff can get inside. All right, now we get to the climax of the ethical hack. Finding a potential weakness is one thing, but proving it can actually be exploited is something else entirely. This is where the simulation gets very real. And here's a crucial point. Finding a theoretical flaw just isn't enough. To get an organization to actually do something about it, an ethical hacker has to prove the risk is real. They need to show them exactly how an attacker could get in, what data they could access, and the damage they could do. That's what provides the concrete evidence needed to justify fixing the problem. A classic example is something called an SQL injection. So imagine a website's login form is like a vending machine. You're supposed to put in your username and password to get access. But an SQL injection is like knowing a secret button combination that, instead of just giving you one snack, tells the machine to dump all of its contents. The attacker isn't breaking the machine, they're tricking it using its own language. But a successful breach isn't the end of the story. For an ethical hacker, it's just the beginning of the most important part, the resolution. The whole point of this entire exercise is to build stronger, more resilient defenses. And that is the fundamental difference in mindset. A black hat breaks in to steal or destroy. A white hat breaks in to provide a blueprint for improvement. The final report they deliver details all the vulnerabilities, the methods they used, and most importantly, the exact steps to fix them. All of these fixes are guided by 3 core principles, known as the CIA Triad. Think of it like sending a package. Confidentiality means only the right person can open it. Integrity means the contents haven't been messed with in transit. And availability means the delivery service doesn't lose the package. Every single security measure is designed to protect at least one of these 3 things. So how can you apply this playbook to your own digital life? Well, there are 3 really simple foundational steps. First, keep your software updated. That's like the manufacturer sending you a brand new, stronger lock for free whenever they find a weakness. Second, use strong passwords and multi-factor authentication. That's your unique key plus a fingerprint scan. It makes it so much harder for anyone else to get in. And finally, just be cautious with emails and links. Most attacks don't start with some big technical assault. They start by tricking you into opening the door yourself. Ultimately, when you boil it all down, ethical hacking is about this. It's not about the thrill of breaking in. It's about a deep curiosity for how things work, a sense of responsibility to use that knowledge for good, and a powerful drive to protect the digital world we all share. Which leaves us with one final question to think about. After seeing the playbook of both the attacker and the defender, it's probably worth taking a second to think about your own security. How strong are your digital walls?